Welcome back to Mindset English. Today, we will learn English through one of the most important and powerful true stories in history. This is not just a story, it's a journey through time that will improve your listening skills, build your vocabulary, and give you knowledge that will stay with you forever. So sit back, listen carefully, and let your imagination take you to a time when the world was on the edge of disaster. This is the story of World War I, told in the simplest English, so you can learn while understanding every word. The year is 1914. Europe looks beautiful on the outside, but inside, something is wrong. Imagine a big, old house, strong walls, bright lights, happy music, but underneath, the floor is broken. The walls are full of cracks. One small shake, and the whole house will fall. For years, countries in Europe have been growing their armies. They make secret promises to protect each other. They don't trust one another. They are waiting, watching, ready for a fight. Then, the spark comes. It's June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, a city in Bosnia. The morning sun lights up the streets. People are smiling. It is a holiday. Flags wave. Music plays. They are waiting for a man, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary. He is coming with his wife, Sophie. They look happy as they wave to the crowds, but not everyone is happy. Deep inside the city, some people are angry. Some Serbians believe that Bosnia should not belong to Austria-Hungary. They want freedom, independence. Among the crowd are young men, hiding. They are part of a secret group called the Black Hand. They want to kill the Archduke. One of them is Gavrilo Princip, a thin 19-year-old with sharp eyes. He carries a gun. He is ready to die for his cause. The Archduke's car moves slowly through the streets. One of the assassins throws a bomb. Franz Ferdinand sees it. At the last second, he moves the bomb away. It explodes behind the car. People scream. Smoke fills the air. The Archduke survives. The attackers run. The police catch one. Now, he should leave the city. He is safe. But Franz Ferdinand is proud. He wants to visit the hospital where his injured soldiers are taken. So he continues the visit. That decision changes the world. His driver is nervous. He makes a wrong turn. By accident, the car stops near a small cafe. Gavrilo Princip is standing right there. He can't believe it. The man he came to kill is right in front of him. He walks forward, pulls out his pistol. 2 shots. One hits Franz Ferdinand in the neck. One hits Sophie in the stomach. The car speeds away. But it's too late. Both are dead. The news spreads fast. Austria-Hungary is furious. They blame Serbia. Serbia refuses to accept the blame. They have support from Russia. 1 month later, on July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. That one action starts a chain reaction. Russia declares war on Austria-Hungary. Germany, who supports Austria-Hungary, declares war on Russia. France supports Russia, so they declare war on Germany. Germany invades Belgium to attack France. Britain, who promised to protect Belgium, declares war on Germany. In just 1 week, all of Europe is at war. Young men run to join the army. They think it will be quick. They think it will be over by Christmas. They have no idea what's coming. It is August 1914 now. The streets are full of soldiers. Young, strong, full of hope. They laugh. They cheer. They carry their country's flag. They believe in victory. They believe in glory. In Germany, the people are confident. Their army is strong, modern, and ready. The German Emperor Kaiser Wilhelm II believes they will win easily. He is proud and full of ambition. In Austria-Hungary, leaders feel the same. They see the war as a chance to prove their power. The empire has many problems, too many different groups, and not enough unity. But war gives them one clear goal: defeat. Serbia. In Russia, the mood is different. Russia is big, but not ready. Their army is large, but not trained well. Tsar Nicholas II knows he must help Serbia. The people are nervous, but they go to war. Across Europe, alliances turn this into a massive war. Countries are dragged in because of promises made long ago. This is not just a war between two nations. This is a storm. On August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. On August 2nd, France joins the war. On August 3rd, Germany invades Belgium. On August 4th, Britain enters the war. The fire has started. The world is burning, but the war doesn't go the way they expected. The soldiers face something terrible, something new: trench warfare. Imagine a deep hole in the ground, full of water and mud. Soldiers sleep there, eat there, fight there, die there. Rats run across their feet. Dead bodies lie nearby. The smell of death and smoke fills the air. Above them, bullets fly. Bombs explode. There is no safety. This is the Western Front. From the North Sea, across Belgium and France, two massive armies face each other. The Germans on one side, the French, British, and later Americans on the other. The line doesn't move. Both sides dig deep. For months, for years, they fight over a few hundred meters of land. Every step forward costs hundreds of lives. The first big battle here is the Battle of the Marne in September 1914. The Germans are close to Paris. Victory seems near, but French and British soldiers fight back. The Germans are pushed back, and so the trenches are born. Now life becomes a nightmare. Every morning, soldiers wake up in the cold mud. They listen for the sound of enemy guns. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes the sky explodes. They wait. They suffer. Many begin to break. Not just their bodies, their minds. Shell shock. That's what they call it. A condition caused by fear, pressure, noise, and horror. Soldiers shake. They forget who they are. They cry. They scream. Some never recover. New weapons make things worse. In 1915, the Germans use poison gas for the first time. A green cloud moves across the battlefield. Soldiers cough. They can't breathe. Their lungs burn. Some die slowly in pain. Gas doesn't care who you are. It kills anyone. Then come machine guns, fast, deadly. Tanks, big, heavy, slow machines that crush anything in their path. Artillery, giant guns that shoot across kilometers, destroying everything. Everything is louder, deadlier, and colder than anything before. One of the bloodiest battles is the Battle of Verdun in 1916. The Germans want to crush the French spirit, bleed France dry. Their leader says, for 10 months, they fight, day and night, non-stop. The French refuse to give up. They defend every meter. Soldiers fight in the mud, under fire, without rest. They kill and get killed. Bodies pile up. The smell of blood and rot fills the air. At the end, over 300,000 French and 300,000 German soldiers are dead, and nothing has changed. The front line stays in the same place. This is what World War I becomes. A war of machines, not men. A war of endurance, not bravery. But the war is not only in Europe. In 1915, the Ottoman Empire joins Germany and Austria-Hungary. They open a new front in the Middle East. The Allies attack at Gallipoli, trying to break through. The result is a disaster. Thousands die. The terrain is hard. The Ottoman soldiers fight with great strength. The Allies retreat, defeated. In Africa, war spreads too. European colonies become battlefields. Native soldiers fight wars they don't understand, for countries they've never seen. Back in Europe, soldiers in the trenches live a strange life. They write letters. They sing songs. They tell jokes. Then, they go out to fight and die. At night, they look at the stars and wonder if they'll survive the morning. Their friends die beside them. Sometimes, they cry. Sometimes, they feel nothing, only silence. For families back home, the war is just as painful. They wait for news. They wait for letters. Sometimes, the letters stop coming. Instead, they get a message. Their son or husband is gone. They sit alone by the fire, reading old letters, holding on to hope. But the world they knew has already changed. The world had changed forever, and the people who emerged from the shadows of war were no longer the same. Across Europe and beyond, the landscapes had been altered, both physically and emotionally. Fields that once produced food were now graveyards. Rivers flowed past twisted steel and shattered bones. Forests stood silent, still, haunted by the echoes of artillery fire. It was a time of silence and mourning, yet it was also a time when the first whispers of rebuilding began. In towns across France, children grew up playing among the ruins of what used to be schools, markets, and churches. Their parents, the survivors, carried with them a heavy silence, a silence filled with memories of fallen comrades, of homes lost, and of a life that could never be fully restored. In Germany, the people faced a different kind of ruin. Not only were cities devastated, but their national pride had been shattered by defeat and humiliation. They lived under the heavy burden of reparations, of a treaty that demanded not just compensation, but surrender. Yet amid the ashes, humanity's instinct to rebuild flickered. Memorials were erected in nearly every village. Names of the fallen were carved into stone, not as numbers, but as reminders of faces once smiling, voices once heard. Women who had taken the place of men in factories, in hospitals, and even in government during the war now stood at a crossroads. Some returned to their traditional roles, while others refused to let go of their newfound agency. The war had disrupted not only borders, but also the fabric of society itself. Children born during or shortly after the war grew up hearing stories not of victory parades, but of missing limbs, empty chairs at dinner tables, and fathers who stared blankly into the distance. They saw photographs of men standing proudly in uniform, and then heard whispers of how those same men wept in the night, unable to speak of what they had seen. These children inherited a world where peace was fragile and trust even more so. Across the globe, empires that once seemed invincible had fractured. Colonized nations began to ask questions if Europeans could destroy each other so thoroughly. Why should they rule over others? The seeds of independence movements were quietly planted in India, in Africa, in the Middle East. The war that had been fought in the name of empire had, ironically, helped to unravel it. Economic hardship followed. Closely behind the political chaos, inflation soared. Food was scarce. Jobs were even scarcer. In Russia, the revolution had already turned into civil war, and those who had hoped for peace found themselves facing a different kind of battle. The rise of ideologies like communism and fascism can be traced directly to the void left by the Great War. People craved stability, and some were willing to follow anyone who promised it. In art and literature, the world saw a new kind of expression, raw, honest, and filtered. Writers like Erich Maria Remarque and poets like Wilfred Owen and Siegfried Sassoon poured their pain into words that would outlive them. Paintings became darker, more chaotic. Music carried dissonance and tension. The arts became a mirror to the soul of a world in recovery, trying to make sense of what had happened. Technology had leapt forward during the war, and though many of its uses had been destructive, some now found peaceful applications. The advances in medicine, especially in trauma care, prosthetics, and mental health, slowly began to change how societies treated their wounded. Aviation, once a novelty, was now being looked at as a means of travel, just combat. Even radio, which had helped coordinate war efforts, became a tool for connection. Still, drama lingered. Soldiers returned home but found no welcome parades, no real understanding. They were expected to return to normal life, but the war had changed their very idea of normal. They couldn't explain the fear that surged at sudden noises or the tears that came without warning. There were no therapies, no safe spaces, no words for what they felt. Many turned to alcohol, some turned to silence, and some were simply lost. In the United States, the entry into the war had propelled the country onto the world stage. Its economy boomed briefly, and American optimism was unmatched. But even there, the effects of war simmered below the surface. The idea of isolationism, of staying out of European affairs, began to take root again. The trauma of war left a nation reluctant to get involved in another. The Middle East saw its own upheavals. The lands once controlled by the Ottoman Empire were carved up like a pie by Western powers, often with little regard for the people who lived there. Promises made to Arabs and Jews were broken or ignored, sowing the seeds for future conflict. The modern map of the Middle East owes much to the decisions made in the aftermath of the First World War, decisions that still echo today. In Asia, the war's effect was more subtle, but no less important. Japan, having sided with the Allies, began to see itself as a growing power. China, still divided and weakened, observed closely, learning lessons both political and military. The idea that global power could shift through war became a dangerous and tempting thought for rising nations. Even language changed. Phrases like "no man's land," "shell shock," and "over the top" entered common usage. They were used not only in conversations about war, but in daily life, as metaphors for struggle, confusion, and despair. The war had become part of the very way people thought and spoke. The League of Nations was born from the ashes of the war, an ambitious attempt to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again, but its foundation was shaky. Key players like the United States never fully committed. The bitterness left by the Treaty of Versailles undermined trust, and while it offered hope, it was a hope that required more cooperation and goodwill than the world was ready to give. Every year, ceremonies marked the armistice. Poppies were worn, moments of silence observed. But for those who lived through it, remembrance wasn't an event, it was a daily experience. The empty seats at the dinner table, the dreams haunted by gunfire, the letters that were never answered. They didn't need a date on the calendar to remember. They carried the war with them. And yet, humanity endured. People fell in love again. They rebuilt their homes. They planted gardens where craters had been. They wrote, sang, and danced. Slowly, painfully, they found ways to smile again. But underneath it all was a quiet promise: never again. They had seen what the world was capable of. They knew what was at stake. However, as history would show, not everyone remembered that promise. The same anger and hatred that had sparked World War began to smolder once more. In the shadows of peace, another fire began to burn. But that is a different chapter. World War I was not just a war of soldiers and strategies. It was a war of humanity, a test of endurance, of morality, spirit. It broke nations, but it also revealed the strength hidden in ordinary people. It showed how fragile peace is, and how important it is to protect it. So when we remember World War I, we must do more than recall battles and treaties. We must remember the people, the dreams that were buried in the mud, the courage shown in hopeless moments, the tears that were never seen, and the resilience that brought the world back from the edge. If you made it this far, thank you for reading. History is not just about dates and events, it's about people, and it's about us. If you found this moving, consider sharing it. Let others know. Let us never forget. Subscribe for more stories that matter, because history should be felt, not just studied. And may we always choose peace over war, humanity over hatred, and memory over forgetfulness.